I wrote my research paper on environmental photography, and this is mainly because I've always been interested in these types of photos. And while writing this, the main point that I wanted to make was just how much power these photos can have in being able to change people's perceptions toward the environment. Because I really do believe that an image or a series of images, if they're crafted well enough, they can really inspire deep thought and make people question their relationship with nature. And so, in order to turn those feelings into a research paper, I decided to look at some historical examples of how some photographers use their art as a tool to shape public values toward the environment. And for that, I ended up choosing three photographers. First was William Henry Jackson, then I talked about Ansel Adams, and finally Elliot Porter. So, here with William Henry Jackson, I mainly focused about his works and how he was the first to photograph Yellowstone National Park as part of the Hayden Geological Survey of 1871. He went on to take some of these images in order to present to Congress, in order for them to preserve this land. And it might not be the same for everyone, but personally, when I look at some of these old photos, I can just imagine the feeling of awe. If I were to place myself in these photographers' eyes, and how that same feeling would then be translated to the public when they see some of these images. The next artist I focused on was Ansel Adams, and it's probably the most well-known photographer out of the three, as opposed to Jackson. And you could just tell that these photos are more carefully crafted with more meaningful compositions to them, but they still managed to give off the same feeling of power, and the black and white style that he used was also gave more a feeling of, made them feel more dramatic. And finally, I decided to focus on Elliot Porter. He's one of my personal favorites. Elliot Porter is one of my personal favorite photographers, and I referenced some of his works that he took in Glen Canyon, and he collected some of these images in order to place into this book called The Place No One Knew. And all these images you see here are essentially the last views of this canyon, because shortly after this, all of this was flooded when Congress decided to build a dam. And although I don't talk much about his other works in the paper, I think they also served an important role in the history of environmental photography. He was a pioneer of the use of color for landscapes, and some of the works that he created just capture your eyes and they make you want to study and take in the natural world through the small frame that he creates. So, for example, some of these images. And all three of these photographers, they all have their own way of transforming the landscape into these cultural symbols, and they just give value to their subjects. So, studying them in their historical context, you could see how their art went beyond simply showing a beautiful image. They manage to surface anxieties, they create feelings of awe, and they make their viewers challenge their relationship with the natural world. So, in studying these historical photos, it shows us what once was and also what we have to lose.